Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today, to celebrate the release of the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, I'm building both Lan Hikari and, of course, Mega Man himself. After the builds, hey, maybe check out my Patreon, if you want. Fair warning, there will be some spoilers in this video. I know the Battle Network games are, 20 years old at this point, but they did just get re-released, so there will be people playing them for the first time, and I'll definitely be mentioning one of the big twists from the first game. So what do we want for Lan? Well, we need Mega Man, an artificial intelligence who can surf the web for us and remind us to do our homework. We also need to support him with battle chips in combat and customization programs out of it. But above all, we need a strong bond with Mega Man, synchronizing with him to the point where we can communicate telepathically and even feel each other's pain. Looking over at ability scores, I'll be using the standard point array. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your intelligence and charisma are high enough to multiclass. Starting off with a 13 in strength. Lan is just a kid, but he is an athlete, even if most of his strength is in his soccer kick. Dexterity's 12, he has a habit of roller skating everywhere, which takes some balance. Then Constitution is 10. We don't need it for much since Mega Man is normally the one doing the fighting, but we are decently durable, so we will raise it a little bit soon. Our 15 goes into intelligence. Despite being a kid, he solved a number of world-ending plots through a mix of smarts and luck. Plus, he does become a scientist later when he grows up. Then we'll dump wisdom because, again, he's like 12. He's not the most aware of other people's feelings. He's still a popular kid who makes friends and inspires others easily though, so we'll finish up with a 14 in charisma. Lan is, of course, human, and we'll give him the Mark of Sentinel, since he's made a name for himself as a defender of humanity and of the planet. And also because I want some of the spells that Sentinels get. It's really not that deep. The Mark of Sentinel gives us +2 to our Constitution and +1 to our Wisdom. We have occasional flashes of intuition, so we can add a d4 to any insight or perception roll we make, and we're a Vigilant Guardian, meaning we can act on our self-sacrificing impulses once per day, using our reaction when a creature next to us is hit by an attack to swap places with them so we take the damage instead. We can cast Shield once per day using our Wisdom, and we get a bunch of Sentinel spells added to the list of any spellcasting classes we take. Lan is a soccer player and a famous net battler, both of which are sports, which makes him an athlete, giving us proficiency in athletics and acrobatics, as well as with land vehicles. We're not old enough to drive, of course, but shh. Most vehicles we take are probably run by computers anyway, so I guess that would make them land vehicles. We'll start off as an artificer, netting us 2 skills from the artificer list, like Arcana and Perception, and we're a magical tinkerer, letting us add minor sensory effects to tiny non-magical objects. For cantrips, we have access to Guidance and Resistance, to give Mega Man instructions and help out his ability checks and saves. Artificers prepare from their entire list, so we have access to spells like Identify to identify mystery data, and Sanctuary to set up an aura that deflects attacks away from Mega Man if the attacker fails a wisdom save. It does break if Mega Man attacks, affects another creature with the spell, or deals damage, but that doesn't mean that we can't keep loading in battleships to do the fighting while keeping him safe. There's also Catapult, for shooting panels at people, and Featherfall, which actually isn't for Mega Man, it's for Lan. He gets dropped down pits a little bit too often to be healthy. Second level artificers get infusions we can use to customize Mega Man. We can make an arm blade for a retractable sword arm, or a repeating shot for a Mega Buster. That's a +1 magic weapon that creates its own ammo, so he has a weapon he can use even after we run out of battle chips. The Mind Sharpener gives Mega Man super armor, letting him expend a charge to pass a concentration check that he fails so his attacks don't get interrupted. And the Wand of Smiles installs the Humor program. We can expend one of its 3 charges as an action to tell a joke, forcing a humanoid of our choice within 30 feet to smile for a minute if they fail a DC 10 charisma save. Though if we spend the last charge, we have to roll a d20, and on a 1, the wand changes to a Wand of Scowls, which does pretty much the exact opposite. Always remember, a good pun will make people laugh. A great pun will make people groan. Switching gears for a bit, we'll jump over to Bard, giving us proficiency in Persuasion and 1 musical instrument. Lan doesn't really play a specific instrument, so may I suggest chiptunes? Bardic Inspiration lets us encourage Mega Man, using our bonus action to give him a d6 that he can add to an attack, ability check, or save in the next 10 minutes. We can give out a number of these dice per day equal to our charisma modifier. For Bard spells, our PET serves as a cell phone, so it definitely has flashlight and messaging functions. Then we can toss a few recovery chips Mega Man's way with Healing Word and Cure Wounds, and put up a bubble wrap with Heroism, some free temporary HP that regenerates every turn. Second level bards are jacks of all trades, letting us add half our proficiency bonus to ability checks we make that don't use the full thing, which, as always, does include initiative. We also get Song of Rest, to jack Mega Man out and let him recover in the PET, adding an extra d6 to whatever healing he gets by spending hit dice on a short rest. At third level, our athletics and perception proficiencies upgrade to expertises, and we become a Bard of the College of Valor. We get proficiency with martial weapons, and our inspiration gets more suited to combat. In addition to attacks, ability checks, and saves, Mega Man can now add our inspiration die to damage rolls, and even do his AC as a reaction to being hit. For battleships at this level, invisibility does exactly what it says on the tin, making Mega Man invisible until he attacks or casts a spell. Then Hold Person throws out a timpani to paralyze an enemy Navi if they fail a wisdom save, opening them up to further attacks. We'll pick up the Tandem Tactician feat at 4th level, since when they work together, Lan and Mega Man are damn near unbeatable. We can take the Help action as a bonus action, and when we help to attack a creature, the range of that help increases by 10 feet. Then there's the anti-recovery chip Chill Touch, which deals necrotic damage to a creature we hit with a ranged spell attack and stops them from regaining HP for a turn, along with Enhance Ability and Lesser Restoration, to install some helpful Navi-Cust programs that give Mega Man an advantage on checks using one ability score of our choice, and to remove any bugs that crop up if we install the programs incorrectly. But we're going to need a lot more battleships to take down World 3, so let's jump over to Wizard, giving us Arcane Recovery, which opens up the custom menu to reload some expended spell slots on a short rest once per day. Frostbite and Create Bonfire work for Freeze Man and Heat Man respectively, and Mending can repair corrupted data. Earth Tremor shakes the ground, dealing damage and knocking enemies prone with a failed dexterity save. It can also crack the ground, making it difficult terrain, so it's a decent fit for the Gutsman chips. There's also Color Spray to blind enemies, and Shield of Faith from the Sentinel list for another aura to make Mega Man harder to hit. Also from the Sentinel list, Compelled Duel locks the enemy into a one-on-one fight where they can't move more than 30 feet from us, and we can remotely access devices by sending Mega Man to operate them over the network. At 2nd level, we'll actually get our PET with Mega Man in it, as we join the Order of Scribes. We get a Wizardly Quill, a magic pen we can summon that never runs out of ink and greatly speeds up copying spells into our spellbook. More importantly, our spellbook awakens an intelligence inside of itself. We can use our spellbook as a casting focus, which, side note, really should just be a standard feature of Wizard spellbooks, but, whatever. When we cast a Wizard spell with a spell slot, that is to say, not a cantrip, we can switch its damage type to the damage type of another spell of the same level that's in our book. So we can switch out a Bubbler for a Heat Shot, for example. We can also ritual cast a Wizard spell using its normal casting time once per day. 3rd level Wizards get 2nd level spells. We can use Desert Man's Sandy Hands to grab enemies with Maximilian's Earthen Grasp, and call in Shade Man to blast an area with Shattering Sonic Waves. Despite only being a 5th grader, Lan has saved the world multiple times thanks to his friends and his determination. We round off our intelligence to 16, and once per rest, we can give ourselves advantage on an attack, ability check, or save. Mold Earth can excavate a 5-foot cube, so we can make a rock cube. Then Gust of Wind sets up a wind box to blow enemies toward the back of the battlefield. And since we're a Sentinel, we can achieve a higher state of synchronization with Mega Man with Warding Bond. Full Synchro increases Mega Man's AC and saving throws by 1, and gives him a resistance to all damage, though thanks to the closeness of our bond, we take the same amount of damage as him. For 3rd level spells, Melf's Minute Meteors uses the Meteor Chip to rain fire on the enemy, and Elemental Weapon can make Mega Man's arm blade deal extra damage in the type of our choice, letting it serve as an Elect Sword, a Fire Sword, an Ice Sword, whatever we need. 6th level Scribes can project a hologram of their spellbook's intelligence once per day as a bonus action. The hologram sheds dim light, it can be moved around with our bonus action, and a number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus, we can cast our wizard spells from the hologram's space. Counterspell interrupts an enemy's spell, making them lose the chip data, and Remove Curse is a more powerful bug fix than Lesser Restoration. Hopefully it can do something about those dark chips. Both of our spells at this level are from the Sentinel list. Guardian of Faith summons an immobile Guardian that retaliates with Holy Lightning whenever an enemy gets too close, dealing 20 radiant damage on a failed dexterity save, half on a success. And Death Ward installs the Undershirt program, keeping Mega Man from dropping below 1 HP from a fatal attack. I think we're done with feats for the moment, so we'll use our ASI here to bump our Charisma up to 16 for better Bard spells and more uses of Bardic Inspiration. One thing we're not quite done with is 3rd level spells. Fly lets Mega Man fly, of course, but it also lets him move over holes in dangerous panels with no ill effects, so it's like a combination of float shoes and air shoes. Then Stone Skin gives Mega Man a stone body. It doesn't reduce every non-breaking hit to 1 damage, but it does give him resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. We can lob obstacles at enemies by using Poltergeist to animate them, then call in Higsby's Hand for Duo's Giant Swipes or Meteor Knuckles. As a Master Scrivener at 10th level, we start becoming proficient at customizing and making our own battleships. The gold and time it costs to make a spell scroll is halved if we use our Wizardly Quill, and we can make a special enhanced scroll once per day when we finish a long rest. The spell can be for any single action 1st or 2nd level wizard spell, but we're the only one who can read it. We can use our action to cast a spell from the scroll, and when we do so, the spell is treated as 1 level higher. For our last cantrip, I suppose On-Off is pretty in character, and then Hold Monster lets us paralyze viruses, not just navies. And we'll cross over with Boktai to get the Gundel Soul, with Dawn. We call down a column of sunlight that deals 4d10 radiant damage to any creature who fails a Constitution save when they end their turn in it, or who was in it when it appeared, half damage on a success. Odaluk's Freezing Sphere creates a bomb that Mega Man can throw, which explodes in a 60-foot radius sphere, dealing 10d6 cold damage to creatures in the area who fail a Constitution save, half that on a success. It also converts any sea panels in the area into ice panels. Then Fizban's Platinum Shield is the full-on Life Aura, giving Mega Man evasion, half cover, and resistance to cold, fire, lightning, poison, and acid damage. With our last ASI, we'll tidy up our scores, rounding off Strength and Wisdom to 14 and 10 respectively. Then we'll pick up 2 more Navi chips. Dive Man summons a tidal wave to crash down on a 30-foot by 10-foot area, knocking creatures prone and dealing 4d8 bludgeoning damage if they fail a dexterity save. And I couldn't include Gutsman without also including Roll, so Wither and Bloom deals 2d6 necrotic damage to creatures of our choice in a 10-foot radius sphere, half on a successful Constitution save. Then one creature in the area can roll a hit die and heal for that much plus our intelligence modifier. Mirage Arcane has a long 10-minute casting time, but it lets us alter the environment around us however we like. We can lay down grass, fill the area with holes, metal panels, magnet panels, poisonous swamp panels, whatever we like. It is an illusion, of course, but it does physically affect creatures who interact with it. And Confusion curses our enemies with bugs, making them act randomly or not at all on their turn. Our capstone is the 14th level of Scribe Wizard as our bond reaches its peak, and we become one with the word. While we have our PET, Mega Man helps us out, giving us advantage on Arcana checks. Plus, if we take damage while our hologram is active, Mega Man can protect us. We can dismiss the hologram as a reaction to prevent all of the damage, then we roll 3d6 and temporarily lose access to spells of our choice in our book, whose total level is equal to that roll or higher. We can only use the reaction once per day, and the lost spells reappear after 1d6 long rests. We can also use Delayed Blast Fireball as a powerful time bomb. The longer we charge it, the greater the damage, and since we're fully synchronized with Mega Man, we can communicate telepathically over any distance. Now that the build is complete, the question becomes, how good is it? Well, our greatest strength is our versatility. We've got spells for pretty much any occasion, whether that be dealing damage or shutting down enemies or even just communication. Plus, we can switch out their damage types at will to fit the situation. We're especially good defensively, with aura spells to block attacks and healing and Death Ward to keep Mega Man from going down. But really, we shine in a support role. Bardic Inspiration and the help from Tandem Tactician can't be used on ourselves, of course, and we have a ton of supporting spells and magic items to help Mega Man out. On the other hand, we've only got around 100 HP thanks to our +1 Constitution and our 14 Wizard hit dice. But I mean, the kid is like 12. Then from a flavor standpoint, there's little we can do without Mega Man. Obviously, this is D&D, so we can cast all those spells solely to benefit ourselves, but it kind of goes against the spirit of the thing. Honestly, the flavor is really the main issue with this one. There's a whole bunch of thorny issues like, do touch spells work on Mega Man if we're touching the PET? What's our distance from the viruses he fights? Is he technically on a different plane of existence? All that sort of thing. I just glossed over it since cyberspace tends to not be a thing in D&D, but those are still concerns. I just treated Mega Man as a separate character in our adventuring party. And speaking of, moving on now to Megaman.exe. Where Lan focused on providing Mega Man with battle chips, Mega himself focuses more on transforming by way of style changes and the double soul and cross systems. One of the biggest changes with the different forms is what his Mega Buster does when fully charged, so we'll get as many different variations of that as we can. And finally, despite Mega Man's uniqueness, we still need to do general NetNavi stuff, like surfing the web and repairing programs. For ability scores, I'll be doing a point buy, since unlike Lan, Mega Man was designed and engineered. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your charisma is high enough to multiclass. Mega Man is a combat Navi, so strength and dexterity will be 13 each, then a 10 in constitution. He's durable, but generally relies on dodging and blocking with chips rather than with his face. We will up this a bit later, though. Intelligence and wisdom are both 12. He's a little bit more mature than Lan, but not by that much. And we'll finish off with a 14 in charisma, since he's basically the Lan of the Navi friend group, the popular one that makes friends wherever he goes. Mega Man is a mostly artificial intelligence, so we'll make him a Warforged. Fun fact, actually, I wasn't going to use Warforged since Mega Man is partially human, so I didn't want him to be a construct, but I looked and Warforged actually aren't constructs. They technically count as humanoids. There are construct races like Autognome and Glitchling, but those came later. Who knew? We get +2 Constitution and +1 to any other score, I'll say round off Strength. We're more resilient than a human, giving us resistance to poison damage, advantage on saves against poison, and immunity to diseases. We also don't need to eat, drink, breathe, or sleep, so to long rest we go into a sort of inactive but still aware sentry mode, so we can wake Lan up. Our armor is part of our bodies, so we can't wear armor we're not proficient with, and it takes a long time to put on and take off. But our AC is increased by 1, and it can't be removed against our will. And thanks to being custom made, we get proficiency with a skill and a tool. I'll say Arcana for the skill, and Dice Games for the tool. They may not explode, but that'll at least let us lob dice as the number soul. Megaman is an athlete just like Lan, because without Megaman, Lan wouldn't be a famous net battler. Just like before, that gives us proficiency with athletics, acrobatics, and land vehicles. A lot of our capabilities are programmed into us, so we'll start off as a Clockwork Soul Sorcerer, giving us proficiency in Persuasion and Insight. As a Clockwork Sorcerer, we can restore balance a number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus, using our reaction to cancel out advantage or disadvantage for a creature within 60 feet. We also have a couple of spells that are always prepared, kind of like domain spells for a cleric. At first level we get Alarm, appropriate since we're always the one who wakes Lan up, and Protection from Evil and Good. For our cantrips, True Strike actually has a flavorful use, charging the Mega Buster for a turn to fire a charge shot. Acid Splash works like the Aqua Style's Bubble Shot, dealing up to 4d6 acid damage to a creature or to 2 creatures that are next to each other if they fail a dexterity save. Then Lightning Lure works exactly like the Magnet Soul's charge shot. We drag an enemy 10 feet closer, and if that puts us within 5 feet of them, they take up to 4d8 lightning damage. We get 2 abilities from the Wind Soul. First, Gust uses the Wind Soul's back B ability to pull enemies closer. Then we can grab Thunder Wave for the Wind Racket charge shot, a wide swing that deals thunder damage and blows enemies back 10 feet. Then the Search Soul gives us Magic Missile for our Scope Gun, a series of darts that only deal 1d4 plus 1 force damage individually, but can be fired at one or multiple targets and never miss. Sorcerers get a Font of Magic at 2nd level, a pool of sorcery points that we can convert into spell slots and vice versa. The pool refills on a long rest and can't have more points than our sorcerer level in it at any given time. We'll also pick up Shield at this level, which isn't a charge shot in and of itself, but is available as a back B to the Shield style and the Proto Soul. 3rd level sorcerers can use their sorcery points to fuel metamagics to enhance their spells, like Distant Spell, which burns a point to double a spell's range if its range is at least 5 feet, or to give it a 30-foot range if it's normally just a touch spell. And Careful Spell uses a point to select a number of creatures up to our Charisma modifier and have them automatically pass their save against the spell. For the Wood Style and Wood Soul's Twister, we'll pick up Dust Devil, a small 5-foot tornado that deals damage to anyone who ends their turn near it and fails a strength save, along with pushing them 10 feet away. It even has an enhanced effect if it moves over sand, just like the charge shot. We also get Aid and Lesser Restoration from our Clockwork Soul. So it may not have escaped your notice that Megaman can't currently use his Mega Buster because he isn't proficient with it. Well, we can fix that at 4th level with the Gunner feat. Our dexterity rounds off to 14, we get proficiency with firearms and can ignore their loading property, and we no longer get disadvantage on ranged attacks for being within 5 feet of a hostile creature. We get another cantrip at this level, and now that we have Distance Spell, we can make Shocking Grasp into a ranged attack for the Electric Style Zap Ring. We deal up to 4d8 lightning damage on a hit, we have advantage on the attack if the target is wearing metal armor, and if we hit, then the target can't take reactions for a turn. Then we'll grab Burning Hands for the various fire forms' flamethrower arms, shooting a 15-foot cone of flame that deals 3d6 fire damage on a failed dexterity save, half that on a success. Our 3rd level Clockwork spells are Dispel Magic and Protection from Energy, useful with all the elemental navies and viruses out there, and Ashardalon's Stride mimics the Charge Cross's charge shot, engulfing us in flames that propel us forward and burn our enemies. Our speed increases by 20 feet, we don't provoke opportunity attacks by moving, and any creature we move within 5 feet of takes 1d6 fire damage, though any given creature can only take the damage once per turn, so we can't just keep looping back to one enemy to pile on the damage. 6th level Clockwork Souls are Bastions of Law. As an action, we can create the Shield Style's Barrier by spending 1 to 5 sorcery points. For each sorcery point we spend, the barrier gets a d8. Then when the warded creature takes damage, they can expend any number of those d8s and roll them, reducing the damage they take by the total roll. We can make the barrier as many times as we can pay for with sorcery points, but making a new one does shut off the old one, so we can only have one active at a time. At 7th level we get more Clockwork spells, namely Freedom of Movement, which gives us the float shoes from several different souls, so we can ignore difficult terrain, and Summon Construct, which calls in a golem to pummel enemies, just like the Dust Cross's charge shot. Since we tend to get a lot of benefit from countering enemies as they attack, we'll take Mage Slayer at level 8. We can use our reaction to make a melee attack against a creature within 5 feet of us that casts a spell. Creatures we damage have disadvantage on their concentration save that damage causes, and we have advantage on saves against spells cast by creatures within 5 feet of us. Our final 2 Clockwork spells come at 9th level, and they are Greater Restoration and Wall of Force. Not particularly in character, but we can also pick up Teleportation Circle to teleport to known addresses, like Mail, Dex, and Yai's homepages, or just to jack out and head back to our PET from anywhere on the net. 10th level brings us another meta magic option, I'll say Twinned Spell, which lets a spell target 2 creatures if it could normally only target 1. That costs a number of points equal to the spell's level, or just 1 point for a cantrip. We also get another cantrip. How about Sword Burst, for a whirling sword slash that mimics the slash cross? Or if you don't mind about damage types too much, the Night Soul's Royal Wrecking Ball. At 11th level we get our first big transformation with Investiture of Flame, for either the Fire Soul or Heat Cross. We become immune to fire damage and resistant to cold. Any creature that moves next to us or ends their turn there takes 1d10 fire damage, and we get a flamethrower arm, as we can use our action to make a 15-foot line of fire that deals 4d8 damage on a failed dexterity save, half that on a success. Then Investiture of Wind is the Gyro Soul. We get float and air shoes in the form of a 60-foot flying speed. Any ranged attacks against us have disadvantage, and we can use our action to create a Gyro Tornado, a 15-foot cube of wind that forces a Constitution save, dealing 2d10 bludgeoning damage and pushing the creature 10 feet away from the cube on a fail. We actually get an ASI at 12th level. I'll say grab an HP memory and bump Constitution to 14, then pick up Investiture of Stone for the Ground Cross. We have resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. We can use our Drilling Charge Shot to move through the ground and across difficult terrain without being impeded, and as an action we can slam the ground to make a 15-foot radius earthquake, knocking other creatures prone if they fail a dexterity save. Investiture of Ice rounds out the selection as one of the Aqua forms. We're immune to cold damage and resistant to fire. We don't slip on ice panels. The ground around us out to 10 feet is icy and slippery to other people, and we can use our action to blow a 15-foot cone of freezing wind, dealing 4d6 cold damage to and halving the speed of any creatures who fail a Constitution save in the area. Then we can beast out with Draconic Transformation, though it's kind of a mix of both Falzer and Gregor. We get 30 feet of blind sight along with a 60-foot fly speed thanks to Falzer's wings, but also Gregor's breath weapon, as we can exhale a 60-foot cone of force as a bonus action, dealing 68 force damage on a failed dexterity save. 14th level Clockwork Souls can enter a Trance of Order as a bonus action once per day, or by spending 5 sorcery points. For 1 minute, no attacks against us can have advantage, and none of our ability checks, attacks, or saving throws can roll less than a 10. And we'll go into some of our more powerful forms, Hub Style and Dark Mega Man, with Tasha's Otherworldly Guise. We get plus 2 AC and a 40-foot flying speed. All our weapon attacks count as magical. We can attack using our Charisma instead of Strength or Dexterity, and we can make an extra attack with the attack action. Then we can choose to be either Light for Hub Style, or Dark for Dark Mega Man. Hub Style gives us resistance to radiant and necrotic damage and immunity to being charmed, and Dark Mega gives resistance to poison and fire damage and immunity to being poisoned. So, speaking of Hub Style, the reason Lan and Mega Man are so close is that Mega was programmed with the DNA and effectively the soul of Hub, Lan's twin brother who died of a heart condition as a small child. Since they're sort of twins, they can sync up really easily, and Mega Man having Hub's spirit qualifies him as a Ghost in the Machine Warlock. Becoming a Warlock gives us proficiency with light armor and simple weapons, and as a Ghost in the Machine Warlock, we get proficiency with hacking tools, the on-off cantrip, and we can cause an information surge once per rest, rendering a computerized device within 30 feet inoperable for a turn. We can use this to shut down whatever convoluted automated device World 3 is using, and let Lan get past so we can move on. Eldritch Blast can serve as the multiple shots of the Napalm Soul's Vulcan, and we'll use Mind Sliver for the roll arrows. The Shadow Soul lets us vanish and retaliate when we get hit, so we'll grab Hellish Rebuke. Then Witch Bolt can serve as our charge shot for the Elect Cross, and we can get Infallible Relay to never lose contact with Lan. Second level Warlocks do get Eldritch Invocations, but all of the ones I want for this build actually rely on our Pact boon. So we'll move on to 3rd level and get the Pact of the Blade, letting us reshape our arm into whatever melee weapon we want to as an action. The weapon counts as magical, and we're proficient with it no matter what it is. Plus we can make a magic weapon into our Pact weapon and just summon that, like the Arm Blade or the Repeating Shot. To cover all of our bases, we'll take the Arcane Gunslinger Invocation, which lets us summon a firearm as our Pact weapon. Shadow Blade will do for our Shadow Soul's Longsword, summoning a shadowy sword that we can also throw like a shuriken. Then with our last ASI, we'll get 1 more HP memory and boost our Constitution to 16. Then get the improved Pact Weapon Invocation, giving our Pact Weapon a +1 bonus, letting us use it as a focus for our spells, and letting us shift it into a bow to go with the roll arrows. There aren't really many more cantrips that I want, so we'll go with Booming Blade, because it's decent. Then we'll pick up Comprehend Languages to download language data and serve as a translator for Lan when he goes overseas. On a similar note, Borrowed Knowledge lets us download programs to temporarily gain skill proficiencies, useful for all the random cooking, kendo, and rock smashing minigames the various navies of the world put us through. Then our last invocation ups our buster speed with Thirsting Blade, so we can attack twice with our Pact weapon using the attack action instead of just once. Our capstone is the 6th level of Ghost in the Machine Warlock for Wire Walk. We can touch a computer or outlet and teleport along the network to another computer or outlet that we can see, quite literally jacking in. And our last spell is Remove Curse, which uses Hub Spirit to purify darkness and purge bugs. Now that the build is complete, the question becomes, how good is this one? Well, just like Lan, our strength is our versatility. We can have any weapon deal practically any type of damage, we have range if we need it, we can basically do anything. We're also much more mobile than Lan. We can go underwater with no issue, several of our spells let us fly, and of course we can teleport, both the shorter range jacking in of Wire Walk and the long range teleportation circle. But really, we're at our best when we work together with Lan. We're effective by ourselves, of course, but we're almost never going to be without Lan, so we can count on the magic items he provides for us, along with healing, defense, covering fire, all the support that he can provide. On the other hand, our stats are a little bit on the low side for my taste. It wasn't too bad for Lan, since he wasn't going to be on the front line, so we mostly just needed intelligence and charisma, but we're using strength for sword attacks, dexterity for gun attacks, charisma for spells, and all three are only 14, since we had to invest in constitution to offset our bad sorcerer hit dice. We also have a lot of things going on with our reaction. We've got, of course, the normal attacks of opportunity, but also the attacks from Mage Slayer, Shield, Hellish Rebuke, Restore Balance, and the boost to AC from Lan's Combat Inspiration. Then finally, we're not proficient with anything heavier than light armor, or with martial weapons. We can cheat the weapons bit since we're innately proficient with whatever our pact weapon becomes, but forms like Night Soul and Proto Soul use medium to heavy armor, and we just can't. We don't necessarily need it, but it does bug me from a flavor perspective.
Hey there, I'm Megaman. I'll be your Navi while you play. Let's do this thing.
Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoyed the builds. No poll again this week, but they'll return after next week's build, which is one I've been waiting to do for over a year now. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below, and they could show up in a future poll. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more, and if you want to support what I'm doing here, you can check the description for the link to my Patreon for access to the Discord channel, early access to future builds, and exclusive Patreon content. Thanks again for watching. I will see y'all later.